Play something that hurts beautifully. The old man said it quietly. He didn't look up. He just stood there at the edge of the sidewalk, hands buried deep in his coat pockets, eyes fixed on the cracked pavement beneath his worn shoes. The afternoon light was fading. The city hummed around him, and nobody had stopped to look at him. Nobody except her. Marlo Ellis was 26 years old. She had a violin case, a folding stool, and $11 in her tip jar. She had been playing on the corner of 5th and Callaway for 3 years. She knew every crack in that sidewalk. She knew which strangers would pause, which ones would glance and keep walking, and which ones were carrying something invisible, something heavy that no one else could see. This man was carrying something heavy. She looked at him carefully. He wore a charcoal coat, simple, expensive maybe, but worn at the sleeves. His hair was silvering at the temples. His face wasn't hard, it was tired. There's a difference. Hard men have edges, tired men have weight. Something that hurts beautifully, she repeated softly. I think I know exactly what that means. She lifted her bow, and she played. She didn't play her usual pieces, the cheerful ones meant to collect tips, the bright melodies meant to make people smile and toss coins without slowing down. She played something older, something her mother had hummed in the kitchen when she thought no one was listening. A melody that had no name, that belonged to no composer, that lived only in the quiet spaces between heartbeats. The man didn't move. He stood completely still. And slowly, so slowly, his shoulders dropped, just slightly, like something he'd been holding for a very long time had finally been given permission to rest. His name was Declan Hurst. He was 33 years old, and he was, though nobody on that sidewalk would have guessed it, the founder of Meridian Sound, one of the most powerful music production companies in the country. He had filled arenas. He had turned silence into gold. And for the past 8 months, he had not been able to listen to a single note of music, not since his mother died. She had been his first audience. When he was 7 years old, and plucking out melodies on a toy keyboard, she had sat beside him on the floor, cross-legged, eyes closed, listening like it was the most important thing in the world. She never told him what to play. She just listened. And somehow that listening had become the foundation of everything. Every album he'd ever made, every artist he'd ever believed in, every quiet moment in a studio when he'd close his eyes and think, is this real? Does this mean something? She had died quietly, in her sleep, in October, and the music had died with her. He hadn't been to his office in weeks. His assistant covered for him. His partners grew worried, and then grew frustrated. He had walked out of a meeting 3 days ago, just stood up mid-sentence and walked out, and ended up here, on this corner, on this ordinary Thursday afternoon, in front of a young woman with a violin and $11 in a jar. Marlo finished the piece. The last note hung in the cold air like a breath. She looked at him. He hadn't moved. His eyes were wet. Who taught you that? He asked. His voice was rough, like it hadn't been used much lately. My mother, Marlo said simply. She never had lessons. She just felt things and let them out through sound. She paused. I think that's the truest kind of music. He nodded slowly. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a $50 bill. He placed it in the jar, not like someone showing off, but like someone making an offering, quietly, carefully. Thank you, he said. I mean that. I know, she replied. I could tell. Marlo watched him go, then turned back to her violin. She didn't know his name. She didn't know what she had just given back to him. She only knew that he had needed something, and she had had it, and she had given it freely. That was enough. But the story didn't end there. 2 weeks later, Marlo's landlord called. Her building had been sold. She had 30 days to vacate. She sat on her apartment floor that night, surrounded by sheet music and takeout containers, doing the math over and over in her head. The numbers never changed. She had no savings. She had no backup plan. She had only her violin and her corner, and the fragile, stubborn belief that music mattered. She almost quit. She almost packed the violin away and called her cousin in Ohio and said, "I give up. I'll come work at the hardware store. I'll be sensible. I'll stop chasing something invisible." She almost did. But the next morning, she went back to her corner, because she didn't know what else to do, because the music was the only language she had ever been fully fluent in. She was halfway through her second song when a woman approached her. Professional, warm eyes, a Meridian Sound business card extended between two fingers. "Mr. Hurst would like to meet with you," the woman said, "if you're open to it." Marlowe stared at the card. Declan Hurst? Yes. She knew the name. Everyone in music knew the name. The meeting happened 3 days later, in a quiet conference room that smelled like good coffee and old wood. Declan walked in and stopped when he saw her. Something moved across his face, recognition, and something softer beneath it. "You don't remember me," he said. "I do," Marlowe said. "Charcoal coat, worn sleeves. You asked me to play something that hurts beautifully." He sat down slowly. "That melody you played, the one with no name." He paused. "My mother used to hum something almost exactly like that. I don't know how. I don't know if it's possible. But when you played it, I heard her." The room was very quiet. "I'm not offering you a contract because of that," he said carefully. "I'm offering you a contract because I spent 8 months unable to hear music. And in 30 seconds you made me hear it again. That's not luck. That's not coincidence. That's a gift." Marlowe looked at the table for a long moment. Then she looked up. "I almost didn't go back that morning," she said. "I almost quit." "I almost didn't walk down that street," he replied. They sat with that for a moment. Two people who had almost missed each other entirely. "My building was sold," she said. "I have 3 weeks. We have a studio apartment connected to the recording space," he said. "It's been empty for a year. It's yours for as long as you need it, while we work." She didn't say yes right away. She thought about it for 2 days. She talked to her mother on the phone. Her real mother, alive and well in Vermont, who listened the same way she always had, quietly, fully, without interrupting. "Go," her mother said. "You were never meant to play for $11. She went. Over the following months, Marlowe recorded her first album at Meridian Sound. It was quiet, unhurried, deeply human. It was built from melodies that had no names and feelings that had no clean explanations. Declan produced it with the kind of careful attention he hadn't given anything in almost a year. It was the first project that had made him feel, again, that music was not a product, but a conversation. They became friends. Slowly, honestly, the way real friendships form, through shared silences and late nights and small moments of unexpected understanding. And on the evening the album released, Marlowe stood in the Meridian lobby with a glass of sparkling water, watching people move through the space, and Declan stood beside her. "Do you know what I think about?" he said quietly. "I think about what would have happened if I'd taken the other street that day." Marlowe smiled. "I think about what would have happened if I'd packed up early." He nodded slowly. "One act of kindness," he said. "That's all it was. You didn't know who I was. You just played." "You didn't know who I was," she replied. "You just listened." Outside, somewhere in the city, the evening was settling in gently, and the music, warm, nameless, deeply human, played on. Kindness doesn't ask who you are before it gives. It simply gives. And sometimes, in that quiet giving, 2 lives find exactly what they were missing. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, subscribe, and comment. Let's spread more stories of kindness and hope together.